I'm Kelsey Ward, and even now, years later, there's one single moment that still rings louder in my mind than anything else. It's the night my grandfather opened his front door and looked straight through me like I was someone he'd never met before. I'd just stepped out of a yellow cab, the kind with the cracked vinyl seats and the faint smell of old cigarettes, and my legs were still unsteady from the ride. The porch light was harsh, one of those buzzing bulbs that makes everyone's skin look sickly. He leaned forward on his walker, eyes squinting against the glare, and asked the question that sliced the evening wide open. A cab, Kelsey, where's your car? Where's the BMW? The words hung there, heavier than the humid summer air. Inside the house I could hear cousins laughing a second earlier, then nothing. A glass clinked and stopped halfway to someone's mouth. The television droned on about weather, then a remote clicked it silent. Someone cleared their throat but thought better of it. It was the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums, thick and waiting, the kind that tells you everyone already knows something you haven't said out loud yet. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. Before a single syllable could escape, a voice floated from behind him, smooth, practiced, almost amused. Oh, she just left it at home tonight, Dad. Didn't feel like driving. You know how the traffic gets. It was my mother. Of course it was my mother. I watched my grandfather's face change. Not anger, confusion. Deep, painful confusion. His eyes, cloudy now with age, moved slowly from my face to the empty spot where my car usually sat, then to the red taillights of the cab disappearing around the corner. He looked back at me, and there was something fragile in his expression, something that made my chest cave in. Is that true, sweetheart? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. I stood on that painted concrete porch with the weight of months crushing down on my shoulders, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I didn't feel the old reflex to lie for someone else. I didn't feel the need to patch the cracks, to keep the peace, to protect people who had never once protected me. So I drew in a slow breath that tasted like cut grass and coming rain, and I said the only thing that felt honest. Grandpa, don't you know? His whole face went still. The walker creaked as his knuckles whitened around the handles. And in that instant, the truth I'd been carrying alone for so long slipped out of my hands and landed between us like something alive and breathing. If you want to know how that one quiet sentence set off a chain reaction that tore my family apart piece by piece, how I lost everything I'd worked for and then took it all back, harder and stronger than before, stay with me. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because this story is long, it's ugly, and it's the reason I will never again let anyone make me feel small. After the screen door slapped shut behind us that night, a different kind of quiet settled in my bones. Not peace, not relief, just the hollow stillness that comes when something inside you finally stops pretending. I remember walking through the house like I was underwater, every footstep muffled, every laugh from the living room sounding far away and fake. I passed the hallway mirror and caught a glimpse of myself, pale, eyes too wide, mouth set in a line I didn't recognize. I looked like someone who'd just woken up from a very long, very bad dream and realized the nightmare was the waking part. None of this started with a missing car or a taxi ride. It started months earlier, when life still felt like something I could steer if I just kept my hands steady and my head down. Back then my days had rhythm. Alarm at 5:45. Coffee black and scalding. Drive to the South Side workshop where the air always smelled like sawdust and linseed oil. I'd tie my hair back, pull on steel-toed boots, and spend 8, sometimes 10 hours sanding curves into walnut headboards or planing oak tables until the wood felt like silk under my fingertips. My arms ached, my back screamed by Friday, but every blister, every pulled muscle, every skipped lunch break was mine. I earned it. No one could take that feeling away. For the first time since I was 17 and still believing love meant staying no matter what, I was building something that belonged only to me. My savings account had a comma in it. A real comma. I could look at the number on my phone and feel my spine straighten. That money wasn't for clothes or nights out or bailing anyone else out of their own messes. It was for an apartment with my name on the lease. A future where no one could walk into my room and tell me who I was allowed to be. The BMW only happened because my old Civic started coughing black smoke every time I hit 40 miles an hour. Winter was coming, and my grandfather wasn't about to watch me break down on some dark highway again. He never spoiled us with handouts, that wasn't his way. Instead he drove me to 3 different dealerships in his rattling old pickup, sat beside me while I filled out credit applications with shaking hands, and co-signed the loan only after making me read every line out loud. He put the down payment on his credit card, told me, "This isn't a gift, Kelsey. This is an investment in you not freezing to death because you're too proud to ask for help." I paid him back every month before I paid anything else. The first time I parked that shining black car in the driveway, I sat behind the wheel for a long time with the engine off, just breathing in the new car smell and letting myself believe I deserved it. That belief didn't last. It started small. So small I almost laughed at myself for noticing. Mom suddenly had opinions about wax and tire shine. She'd walk out to the driveway in her housecoat, trail her fingers along the hood like she was checking for dust that wasn't there, and ask how much the insurance cost these days. My sister Grace would lean in the driver's window and say things like, "Funny how some people get all the luck," with a smile that never reached her eyes. I'd brush it off. Families tease. Families borrow. Families share, but sharing and taking are 2 different things. I started noticing my keys weren't always on the hook by the door. Mom would say she moved the car so the sun wouldn't fade the seats. Grace would adjust the mirrors, just to see, and forget to put them back. They'd both linger in the garage longer than necessary, talking in low voices that stopped the second I appeared. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself blood is thicker than steel and leather. I told myself a lot of things that 18-year-old me would have rolled her eyes at. Then came the text that changed everything. I'd just wiped sawdust off my jeans after a 12-hour Saturday shift when my phone buzzed against my hip. The message wasn't a question. It was an announcement. "Hey, Tyler needs to borrow the BMW for a couple days. His truck's in the shop again. Keys are on the kitchen counter. Thanks sis. Tyler Grant." Grace's boyfriend of 4 months. The one with the easy grin and the stories that never quite added up. The one who called me, "little sis," like we grew up together instead of him blowing into our lives like a storm that forgot to leave. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. My thumbs hovered, typing and deleting, typing and deleting. Finally I managed. "I need it for work Monday." The 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared. Again. Then, "It's just 2 days. Don't be dramatic." That was it. No discussion. No pleas. No acknowledgement that the car was mine, the loan was mine, the insurance was mine, the risk was mine. By the time I got home, the driveway was empty. I stood there holding my lunch bag like an idiot, staring at the oil stain where my car used to be. The house smelled like pizza and someone else's cologne. Laughter spilled out the back door. I walked through the kitchen, past the counter where my key fob used to live, and out onto the patio. Tyler was holding court, feet up on the picnic table, beer in one hand, my key fob spinning around his finger with the other. "Handles like a dream," he was saying. "Feels like it was made for me." Grace laughed and leaned her head on his shoulder. "Told you it'd look better with you behind the wheel." Something inside me went very, very cold. I asked for it back. Politely at first. Then not politely. The answers came in layers. Eye rolls, sighs, comments about how I used to be fun, lectures about helping family, reminders that Tyler was basically family now, guilt trips wrapped in concern. Every time I brought it up, the subject changed. Every time I reached for the keys, they weren't where I'd left them. A week turned into 2. 2 turned into 3. I started taking the bus to work. 40 minutes each way standing in the cold because someone else decided my life was more flexible than theirs. Then one Tuesday morning, still half asleep and scrolling through emails in bed, a notification stopped my heart. Subject: claim filed €. Vehicle incident. I opened it with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. The photos loaded slowly. My beautiful black car with the front end accordioned, headlights smashed into spiderwebs of glass, silver paint scraped raw down to the primer. The estimate was 5 figures. More than I made in 2 months. More than I'd managed to save after a year of overtime. Before I could scream, another alert pinged. My bank this time. Transaction declined. Transaction declined. Transaction declined. I opened the app. Someone had been busy. Gas in 3 different cities. Bar tabs. Uber rides. A pair of sneakers that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. All on the card I kept clipped inside the center console, for emergencies. I sat on the edge of my bed in yesterday's clothes and felt the last piece of who I'd been trying to become crack right down the middle. When I walked into the kitchen holding my phone like evidence, my mother was at the stove stirring oatmeal she had no intention of eating. I started talking and she started crying before I finished the first sentence. Not messy crying. Controlled, practiced tears that appeared exactly on cue. How can you be so selfish? She whispered, pressing a tissue to dry eyes. After everything this family has done for you. My father never looked up from his newspaper. That night they called a family meeting. Chairs dragged into a circle like we were about to play a game. Everyone was there. Aunts, uncles, Grace wearing the new sneakers paid for with my card. They took turns. Calm voices, sad voices, reasonable voices, all saying the same thing in different wrappers. I'm overreacting. I'm tearing the family apart. I'm not considering other people's needs. I'm acting like material things matter more than blood. I listened until the walls started closing in. Until the air got too thick to breathe. Until I realized no one had asked a single question about how it felt to watch everything I built get dismantled while I was too afraid of being called dramatic to fight back. Then my grandfather did something no one expected. He waited until the house was asleep, eased open my bedroom door with his walker, and set a plain white envelope on my desk. Inside was every receipt from the down payment he'd made, every canceled check, every note he'd kept about the loan. And a single post-it in his shaky handwriting. This was always yours, Kelsey. Never let anyone tell you different. He didn't hug me. He didn't give a speech. He just looked at me for a long second, nodded once, and left. I opened my laptop at 2:17 a.m. and started gathering evidence like I was building a fortress. Every text asking for the car back. Every ignored message. Every photo of the damage. Every bank alert. Every insurance report. Every single receipt Tyler had been stupid enough to leave in the glove box. By sunrise I had a folder thick enough to make a lawyer smile. First I called the police and reported my vehicle stolen. Because that's what it is when someone refuses to return property that doesn't belong to them. Then I called the bank and froze every account, disputed every charge, and watched the reversals roll in one by one. Then I called the insurance company and made sure the claim was filed under the driver who actually caused the wreck. Then I packed one duffel bag. Not running away, walking toward. I left a note on the kitchen counter that said only, "I'll be in touch through attorneys." The fallout was slower than I expected and louder than I imagined. Official letters with letterhead, phone calls from numbers they didn't recognize. The impound lot refusing to release the car without my signature. Bank statements showing negative balances that weren't mine suddenly becoming very much someone else's problem. 2 months later my mother sold the diamond tennis bracelet she'd worn to every family wedding for 20 years. Grace returned the sneakers and took the bus. Tyler's charm ran out somewhere around the 3rd court date. I didn't watch. I didn't need to. When the body shop finally called to say the BMW was ready, I took the bus across town in the rain to pick it up. The mechanic walked me around the car pointing out every new panel, every perfect seam. It looked brand new, like nothing had ever happened. I ran my hand along the hood and felt the warmth of the metal under the lights. Same car, completely different owner. That night I drove with the windows down even though it was cold. The city lights blurred past and for the first time in years I didn't feel like I was racing to catch up with my own life. I was finally in the driver's seat, literally and otherwise. At a red light near downtown I saw Tyler waiting for the late bus, hands shoved deep in his pockets, bouncing on his heels like the cold was personal. Our eyes met through the glass. He looked smaller somehow, not ruined. Just a Euro regular. I didn't wave. I didn't flip him off. I just waited for the light to turn green and eased forward into the lane that was finally, completely mine. Some people will tell you that protecting your peace makes you cold. That drawing boundaries is the same as burning bridges. That choosing yourself over people who never chose you is selfish. Let them talk. Peace was never supposed to feel warm and comfortable to everyone in the room. It only has to feel like breathing to you. And for the first time in my entire life, I can finally fill my lungs all the way.